let's move on. So the actor's name is Tenoch Huerta, and he is a Marvel villain who is being accused of real-life villainy. Not a good thing, and Marvel can't seem to catch a break these days because we're 2 months out from when Jonathan Majors was accused of similar things. Jonathan Majors was accused of domestic violence with his girlfriend, and Tenoch Huerta is accused of being a sexual... I don't even know what I'm allowed to say or not say here, but he's a predator, according to this woman, and it's scary because, look, this is one of those things where you have to be very, very, very careful. There is no outward evidence provided. This is a he said, she said right now, but I have to ask one question, and is like, what the hell is going through Marvel's head right now where they're like, both of our big name bad guys are now, you know, persona non grata for the time being, right? So they're going to have to think about what DC is doing right now with Ezra Miller, where everything they're marketing is about Batman instead of the Flash. And imagine how you're going to lose two of your big bad guys. One of the big things about Infinity War is Josh Brolin as Thanos became a center point to your movies, right? So everyone really loves him in that character, and he's big for Marvel. If you lose the ability to even have a villain be part of your marketing campaign, what do? So the woman who's accusing him, her name is Maria Elena Rios. She is a saxophonist in Mexico, and she was part of a group with him called Padre Pieto. And I was looking into it, and what I thought was really interesting is it's a group that's designed to combat racism in Mexico. And it was such a big thing that when I was looking at old interviews of this actor, it would get brought up in the comments section of all of his interviews. Like, he's not just a great guy or a great actor, he's also a great person because he's part of this group that's combating racism in Mexico. Yikes. And as we know, it's not uncommon. Again, this is all allegedly. We don't know if any of this is true, but we have to talk about it because it speaks to the business concerns. People that do have a history of doing things that are wrong will attach themselves to positive causes because it offers them some level of cover. We don't know we don't know if that's the case here. This is a he said, she said, but the group allegedly covered up for him and like sought out this lady at one of her performances. Apparently she's like a well-known saxophonist and activist, right? And after she left this group, and she left the group not because of what happened, but because she said that they didn't pay him for a podcast appearance, and said that the group is covering for him and that they sought her out at a performance of hers to see if she was going to say anything because they didn't want to ruin the box office for Black Panther. So she says, I made it very clear to them when I left their sect that they protected the violator and sexual predator of Tenoch Huerta, that they not publish anything about me. They still went to look for me at a hypocritical ball concert to avoid scandals over their Marvel movie. She continued in a follow-up tweet saying it is difficult to discuss the abuse of power of a sexual predator who is loved by playing a character in a movie, and claimed Huerta was a charming in appearance but also a narcissist. This is the same stuff that was coming out recently about Percy Hines White, where people were coming forward and saying it's hard to see somebody who abused me, allegedly, who supposedly abused me, get successful, right? So they don't like seeing a person who committed these allegedly unspeakable crimes. They don't want to see them doing good because nobody who's actually the victim of a crime would want to see something like that. It would be triggering. But again, we can't know. And what do you do in a situation like this? You have to take it seriously. Marvel has to take it seriously and investigate. But you can't prove that, like, outside of going to law enforcement right after an incident happens, you can't prove any of this, and it will break down into a he said, she said. That will end up hurting pretty much everyone now. So
there's not a whole lot else to say. If you don't have evidence, if it's he said, she said, I mean, you're limited in what you can do. And Marvel is limited in what they can do too. It's like they can't just ignore it. What
do you do? Like, if you're Marvel, what do you do?
I mean, probably what they're doing, like pretending it's not happening.
Pretending it's not like that. Yeah. Well, that seems to be what Marvel's been doing with Jonathan Majors. He hasn't been pulled from his role as Kang. He lost a bunch of other roles in other projects. He lost a lot of endorsements. for the actor of Jonathan Majors lost a bunch of endorsements. But right now, there's nothing you can do, and this is going to be one of those things that's going to bleed into the news cycle for ages. This lady, Maria Elena Rios, was also a victim of an acid attack in Mexico. So she's knows like that. I think that's where her activism comes from. It says
there's some gnarly things happening there.
She explained there's a podcast called, I don't know how to pronounce the podcast, published an episode in which she had participated but was never paid. She added that she had also worked on the projects with that group without receiving payment. So this group, Padre Pieto, which people keep lauding in these comment sections, like, look at all the good work they're doing. They're helping combat racism in Mexico. But then you're finding out they're not paying the people that work for them. They're running cover for people who may or may not have who committed crimes. And I wonder if it's getting to a point now where everyone else should understand you can't trust any of these people on face value. None of them. I don't care if we're talking about this dude. I don't care if we're talking about Mel Gibson. I don't care about any of them. I don't care if you agree with them on 90% of the things they say and do. They're human. They make mistakes, and they're in an industry with a very, very large percentage of bad people and behavior.
And again, this is one of ever-mounting amount of sins of people that bring awareness.
What do you mean?
That there is an industry that doesn't want to look for solutions. They want to create awareness on issues.
Because it's so much easier to create awareness.
Yes.
Raising awareness.
Despite the fact that we all are seemingly aware of pretty much all what woes man currently.
Yeah. There's nothing new under the sun. The idea that people take advantage of other people, the idea that people abuse other people, that is not new, and we don't need to raise awareness. That is literally part of the human condition. And the idea that raising awareness is going to do anything, all it does is virtue signal.
Dude, it's the most infuriating sect of people that I've ever met in my life.
Somebody in the chat, Rick C says Mel Gibson is different. He may be, but I'm always going to be outwardly distrustful of, I don't know the dude, right?
In both ways, honestly.
I don't know him. I don't know any of these people, so I'm always going to be weary of them because of the industry they're in. I just think that's a fair thing to do. For her, this is a little bit different than a lot of these examples, meaning that she named her attacker, and this was not, we've seen a lot of cases earlier. There was more articles today about Elliot Page in the news, because Elliot Page's life is literally just a book of trauma about being taken advantage of when she was when they were younger on the set of a movie. And it's like, but they're not naming names, right? They're saying an unnamed person at an unnamed time on an unnamed project did this to me. There is a difference between that and actually naming the person you're saying abused you. You're at least putting it down right there, your money where your mouth is on that type of incident. But I can't know what Marvel and these companies do. They should be investing in just massive background checks. Now, I know that Beyonce did something called like a Me Too background check on her last album, where she basically ran like a background check on all the people that worked on it to make sure they don't have any type of sexual assault or anything in their past, or there's no rumors about it. And I think it ended up failing. I think at least one person ended up getting outed as somebody who had at least accusations against them, because it's just, anybody can make an accusation at any time.
If you ask enough people about anyone, you'll get someone to say anything.
Yeah.
Like humanity is flawed and sometimes evil, and the issue once again is to the victims who don't speak out of fear, or those that do speak out and are not believed, and it's a tragedy that as a species we're so complicated that some of us would have the audacity to lie about this and others don't. It's I don't know.
Also, I don't know if she's saying, maybe somebody in the chat can correct me on this if they looked at this as well, but there's a difference between accusing someone of being something and accusing somebody of doing something. So is she saying that this happened to me and I'm saying that he's a predator because it happened to me, or she's saying I know that he's a predator because other people told me and they're protecting him.
No idea.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it says the report comes from an article at Reforma, which says Maria Elena Rios accuses Tinac Huerta of being a sexual predator. That's not saying that he did something to her necessarily. That's just saying that she may know secondhand that that's what he is, what she believes him to be.
Which is significantly worse.
That's a very, very different thing. And I don't know. It's very, very strange. She says, I made it very clear to them upon my departure from their cult that protects the R word and sexual predator of Tinac Huerta. Do not publish anything about me. They still went looking for me at a concert to avoid scandals. So I don't know. Like, I really don't know what to make of something like this other than I would never want to be one of these companies now, because every single person you hire, you're basically rolling the dice each and every time. We got a $20 super chat from Disco Jensen. He says, I'm always for boys having a good time. Now is the time to be men, start families, and lead. The next generation will be critical after the collapse. They will need strong leaders among them. Thoughts? Yes? No? Maybe so?
I mean, you know, regardless of collapse being imminent or not, you should always, you know, seek to like strengthen the people around you and to, you know, empower yourself and go after difficult things and conquer them.
Yeah.
You know?
Families are good.
Sketch Therapy says predator is not an incident, it's an accusation of a pattern. Well, then they would need more people to come forward to detail what that pattern is, because you're destroying a person's reputation on a claim. And I'm not sure that that's something that I can in good conscience endorse, because it's not really fair to the dude. He's not getting his day in court. If he's guilty, he's guilty. But at the same time, we've created a culture where all it takes is an accusation to destroy someone's reputation. Mm-hmm. And look what the amount of money Johnny Depp had to spend trying to get his back. I don't know if this guy has that much money to invest in something like that, assuming it's not true.
And again, the only thing that saved Johnny Depp is that he had cartoonishly crystal clear evidence that his chick was not so the clown. Yeah. Nothing else would have absolved him of woke hatred. And it still hasn't for a lot of people.
If she hadn't actually been the Antichrist on camera, we wouldn't know. But yeah.
And by the way, some people, even when faced with that, are still unshaken. They're like, yep.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of people who just don't care. Yeah, so they're like they don't care. The gendered lines of it are enough to bother them, so they don't really care. Look, they're gonna have to do some work here, because it'd be funny if there was one franchise that actually could get their way out of this. It's Marvel, because they can use the multiverse to get out of anything.
They can
just be like, oh, whoops, sorry.
The multiverse is the get out of jail free card.
Well, like if that's literally what it is. Like if the actor doesn't have a get out of jail free card, they have a get out of jail free card that they can use anytime they want to explain. Card. Yeah, to explain why this works. I really do believe, though, as much as I'm willing to criticize the claim, meaning that it's very hard to take something like this at face value. I want to believe that people are good, but I also want to believe that actual victims come forward too, that this isn't just a world now where everyone's a false accuser. We do know that there is a history of people who are bad people attaching themselves to good causes because it allows them access to people, and it gives them the ability to push back without feeling like they're going to be held accountable for their actions. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.